Hello, I'm Parsons, and this is my show. Welcome to my show, which is titled In Love with Hawaii. And it's simply titled like that because I am in love with Hawaii, where I live now full-time since 2020. I want to tell you a little bit about my art. So what you see here in this exhibition is mostly plein air work. Paintings that are made on plein air, which plein air is a French word for painting on the open air. And plein air work is different than work done in a studio from a photograph. Because when you paint from a photograph, maybe you pay more attention to details, maybe your painting is more perfect. And paintings made outside on plein air, they're less perfect, but they're more honest. They really reflect what you see around you, what you feel. You feel sun burning your skin, you feel breeze caressing your hair, you can hear the birds chirping on the trees, sometimes you get flies or mosquitoes. Anything that is around you is reflected in this painting. So they're a little bit imperfect, but they really reflect where you are at that moment, the space and place. And all these paintings, most of them were done on location here in Oahu. And I joined really nice artist groups. I'm very fortunate to meet great artists here who also like to paint on plein air, and I belong to this group. For example, on Saturday I paint with a group that is led by famous Hawaiian artist Mark Brown. And here is my painting of Mark, who is painting on huge canvases outside, and he's painting here in Waikiki. As you can see, I am mostly painting small images. Here in the exhibition are mostly small images presented because I paint usually small on plein air. It's kind of hard for me to paint large like Mark on plein air, but he is doing it, so maybe in the future I will start painting large too on plein air. What you see here in this exhibition is mostly paintings done on certain locations. So something that I'm looking at, I'm painting it. So for example, this painting of the boats, we saw these boats in the North Shore. And this painting wasn't done looking at somebody's house. Most of these paintings, as I said, were done on location, from life. But when you paint over and over and over the scenery of mountains, scenery of the trees, of the water, it kind of gets soaked into your memory. And sometimes I start painting just from my memory and from my imagination. So this small painting was done exactly like that, from my memory, from my imagination of what I see around me, beautiful mountains. So what I do sometimes when I paint my larger paintings, I have some leftover paint, and I'm reusing this leftover paint. Sometimes I just, keep it, scrape it, and I teach my students also how to scrape paint and how to preserve it into a little jar. But sometimes I just reuse this paint. And when reusing this paint, I'm creating these paintings made from my imagination, just really quick studies, memories, impressions from my past experiences, what I saw on the island here. And this is one of them. I call them ecological paintings because I'm reusing leftover paints instead of just scraping and putting them into the garbage. So talking about leftover paint and how I paint from my imagination. This painting was done completely from imagination with leftover paint I had scraped from my palette. These two paintings also done from leftover paint, but in this case I actually remembered something that I just painted, but in watercolor. When I came home into my studio, I used some leftover paint from another painting, and I recreated my watercolor painting in oil, but also using my leftover paints. So this way I kind of incorporate my leftover paints, and this way I do what I call environmental paintings, because I'm not throwing away my leftover paints. Most of the paintings in this exhibition created in Hawaii. However, these two paintings I made in Florence, Italy, where I was taking a class in landscape painting at Florence Academy of Fine Art. So as you can see, this is a Florence at night, this is Florence in the morning. It was in 2015, and it was so hot that actually one day we couldn't paint outside. We were painting at night instead because it was so hot. So that's how this nocturne painting was created. And it was my first time making a nocturne painting at night, and I really, really enjoyed it. And that's That's how this painting was made, and I hope in the future maybe make some more nocturne paintings. Talking about painting made on plein air, they're more honest, but they're a little bit imperfect. This is a perfect example of being imperfect. So this painting, I actually was very pleased with this painting, how it went. It was reflecting very well the atmosphere, just going, the atmosphere, just rain was about to start. So I was very happy. I was very pleased with how this painting was going, and I was done. I put it on the ground, and I was putting my brushes and scraping my paint off the palette. And while it was laying on the ground, I did not notice and accidentally stepped on it. And not only I stepped on it, I stood on it quite a little bit of time, and I was moving around. And this is how this wonderful texture was created. But however, how funny it is. So the curator of the show liked it, and they suggested I should include it in the show. And this is a perfect example of a painting being imperfect. This painting is not a landscape, it's a still life. But I wanted to include it because it includes something important to me. First, it includes what all of us experienced during COVID time. So I started making this painting in 2020, and I finished it in 21. It has the kind of standard objects of the still life. I wanted to include the mask to reflect on object that became so familiar to all of us, but I also wanted to include part of myself, and it was just an object that was hanging around. It was a little figurine that I made out of my other painting, which I'm going to show you shortly. So this is my self-portrait. I call it self-portrait in a red turban. And the idea for the self-portrait started from just a simple study that I wanted to complete, a study of a famous portrait by Jan van Eyck, man in a red turban. And when I worked on this red turban, and that was a time to include his face, I kind of figured it out. I'm not interested in painting his face, but I wanted to put my own face. And working on this painting made me think all kinds of things, and especially the thing that the fact that I am as a female artist, I'm painting myself wearing a hat of the male artist, Jan van Eyck. As a young woman, I wanted to be an artist, but I was discouraged by somebody who told me there had never been great women artists. And I was trying at first to argue with this, but then I looked at art history that we all studied during this time. There were only male artists who were really great artists. So Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. Female artists were just occasional, and they were not great. So I decided not to become an artist, and I gave up on that idea till much, much later when I came to America in 2001. Then I started studying art again, and I finished my bachelor's in art and master of fine arts. And only then I believed in myself. This painting is my statement of, yes, I am an artist and I belong in the art world. And please, to learn more about this painting, because there is more images of the crows, for example, you can learn more about this painting. Please visit my blog, and my website is parsons.com, but I also have a blog where I write about some paintings that have more meaning for me. So please visit it.
And